Breaking news tonight, President Donald Trump announcing the U.S. has successfully attacked 3 nuclear sites in Iran. Good evening and thanks for joining us for News Channel 9 at 11. I'm Maggie Weaver.
And I'm Mary Beth Mangrum. The president addressed the nation tonight after he says a, quote, full payload of bombs was dropped on the primary site.
For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue.
Standing by Trump's side during the address was Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth.
The decision to directly involve the U.S. comes after more than a week of strikes by Israel on Iran that have moved to systematically eradicate the country's air defense and offensive missile capabilities while damaging its nuclear enrichment facilities.
Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier.
And we are looking live now to the president's social media post from earlier today. It says again in part, quote, all planes are now outside of Iran's airspace. The post reiterates that all planes are safely on their way home and congratulates, quote, our great American warriors. Trump adds, quote, there is not another military in the world that could have done this. Now is the time for peace.
I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before, and we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel.
Now, we spoke to Congressman Chuck Fleischmann tonight for more insight on the specifics of this strike. On your screen now are the B-2 Spirit bombers. We know that 6 of the stealth bombers from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri were en route to a base in Guam earlier today, the same type of aircraft involved in President Donald Trump's military strike on Iran. But Congressman Fleischmann says that these were actually decoys to the ones used in today's attack.
We have tremendous resources with the B-2 bomber. I also want to give tremendous shout out and success. The other 2 sites that were hit by our great United States Navy. Submarines were used to launch between 300 and 400 Tomahawk missiles to finish off the other 2 sites.
But Iran's most fortified and best protected nuclear facility, called Fordow, is buried deep inside a mountain. Only the U.S. has the 30,000-pound bombs, often referred to as bunker busters, capable of reaching it, and the B-2 stealth bombers are needed to deliver them.
Iran tonight has no longer a capability to work towards producing a nuclear weapon. The world is an infinitely safer place because of Donald Trump, because of the United States of America, and because of our great armed forces.
The congressman also underscored the importance of Oak Ridge here in Tennessee and countering Iran's nuclear capabilities and understanding the U.S.'s strong nuclear arsenal.
Meanwhile, demonstrations happened all over the country today, protesting U.S. involvement in the conflict in Israel and Iran. This is chopper footage from earlier today in Los Angeles. You can see people walking down the street there, holding banners and waving flags.
One of those protests happening right here in Chattanooga and Miller Park today. News Channel 9's Sarah Howard talked to demonstrators before the news of the U.S. strike on Iran.
Fear, raw and personal, is what college student Jackson Stevens says brought him to Miller Park Saturday night.
I personally don't want to get drafted in a war that I don't think should be fought in the first place.
Now, with President Donald Trump authorizing military strikes on Iran, protesters say their message is more urgent than ever.
I don't want to have have blood on my hands. I don't want to kill anybody.
Stevens is only one of nearly 30 protesters rallying against U.S. military involvement in the Middle East. The protest, part of a national campaign, was organized by anti-war groups, including the Answer Coalition and the Party for Socialism and Liberation.
We're here because we don't want to repeat the mistakes of the past.
Organizer Noah Abbas says he believes the cost of war, both human and economic, is too high.
There's a lot of other things that we could be doing as a society, that our government could be doing to unite people, take care of people.
Earlier this week, Congressman for our area, Chuck Fleischman, expressed support for the president. A post on X says, quote, "President Trump is showing strong, clear-headed leadership to preserve America's and the world's security. The president is absolutely correct that Iran can never acquire a nuclear weapon. Please join me in praying for all U.S. military and diplomatic personnel across the Middle East." But protester Scarlett Doe says the decision to add strikes only adds fuel to a dangerous fire.
We don't want our country to pay for a war, especially just a war in a different country. I'm anti-war in general. I don't think it's good.
Stevens agrees, calling for action through diplomacy, not destruction.
I say diplomacy is always the answer. More bombs dropped only hurts the people that don't deserve to be involved in the war in the first place.
The protest may only last a few hours, but these demonstrators say their fight against war won't end here. In Chattanooga, Sarah Hauer, News Channel 9.
Also, before the news of the U.S. strike on Iran, the negotiations between European and Iranian diplomats ended Friday with no immediate breakthrough. When asked why the U.S. was not participating in those talks, State Department Press Secretary Tammy Bruce referred back to President Trump's previous deadline.
He's making those decisions and anticipates that it might be worth waiting those 2 weeks. But other than, I can't characterize the why or the how. But I think it's important. One thing I think of the many that Americans have learned about President Trump is to believe what he says, to know that he'll deliver, and to not second guess the nature of the choices he's making.
The White House announced Thursday that Trump would make a decision within 2 weeks on whether to join Israel's war against Iran. The State Department also said Secretary Marco Rubio was monitoring the talks. We also know the State Department began assisted departure flights from Israel. That announcement came earlier on social media from Mike Huckabee, the U.S. ambassador to Israel. He urged all U.S. citizens in the region to reach out to the State Department for more details. According to the State Department, more than 25,000 Americans had already reached out for information on leaving Israel, the West Bank, as well as Iran. On Friday, the U.S. evacuated 79 staff members and their families from the U.S. Embassy in Israel.
And as Reed Binion reports, news of the plane's movement came as details poured in about new overnight strikes in Israel and Iran in that conflict.
We want you to know that some of these details may have changed in the last few hours as new information was given by the president.
As the Israel-Iran conflict extends into its second week, the two sides exchanged fresh strikes overnight Friday into Saturday. Israel targeted Iran's largest nuclear research complex, according to an Iranian official, while Israel said it killed two commanders of an elite branch of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Israel's military also said two Iranian drones managed to get past Israel's air defenses, a rare event, striking sites in the north and south. Meanwhile, President Trump says the clock is ticking on a possible diplomatic solution before he decides on U.S. involvement.
We're going to see what that period of time is, but I'm giving him a period of time, and I would say 2 weeks would be the maximum.
But so far, there haven't been any breakthroughs during talks in Geneva and Turkey. Iran's foreign minister said his country won't negotiate with the U.S. while Israel's bombardment continues.
Iran is ready to consider diplomacy once again. And once aggression is stopped and the aggressor is held accountable for the crimes committed.
The foreign minister adding that if the U.S. gets involved in the conflict, it would be, quote, very dangerous for everybody. I'm Reed Binion reporting.
Also, the UN's nuclear watchdog confirms no, quote, radiological consequences following Israel's initial attack on one of Iran's planned nuclear sites. This, of course, coming before, again, the U.S. strike tonight. The strike on Isfahan comes after the International Atomic Energy Agency identified the location as the site of a new nuclear enrichment facility in Iran. That plant is also a manufacturing hub for the equipment used in the nuclear enrichment process. Had it gone online, the IAEA says that the new plant would have been Iran's fourth. But Israeli attacks destroyed one of those plants and also put another out of action by killing its power supply.